Joining us now is Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut. He's a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator, thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday. I want to start with a back and forth that you had with a Trump nominee, a judicial nominee, on Wednesday.
Judge Cook, who won the 2020 election?
A joint session of Congress certified that Joseph Biden won the election. And
Judge Cronin, you're already on the district court. Who won the 2020 election?
Senator, under the constitutional system, and in particular the 12th Amendment, Joseph Biden received the majority of the Electoral College vote.
Yes or no? Did President Biden win the 2020 elections?
The United States Congress certified Joseph Biden.
Sir, you are showing cowardice.
Of course, that was you and your colleague, Senator Cory Booker there. I was talking to someone who's not in politics, and they asked me, why does anyone care how folks answer this question? If they say it was certified, if they kind of throw their hands up and say, he was president. But can you explain to folks why it matters? And I think a lot of our viewers know, but just so we got it on the record, why it matters when people ask the question, who won the election, that it's easy for people to say that Joe Biden won, and why that's important, why you want to get folks on the record on that.
Profoundly important question, Eugene. A lot of people may say, oh, well, that seems like a very technical, common sense question. Of course, Joe Biden won the election, but it is an essential test of their independence. When I ask a nominee for the federal judiciary whether Joe Biden won the election, and they say, well, it was certified, and they refuse to give an accurate answer, they are simply providing a canned, rehearsed response that is dictated to them by the White House. And this position of trust requires an element of independence and courage, frankly, to stand up to the president. Federal judges have to stand up to the president of the United States. And so it is an essential test of whether they are willing to defy the Trump obsession and fixation with his losing the 2020 election. We all know that Joe Biden won. If these officials are unwilling to say so, they should be disqualified from this position of trust.
And yet they still keep getting confirmed, primarily because Republicans are in control of the Senate. I just want to switch gears just for a little bit away from these federal judges and bring up something that happened in Michigan during the primary. This is a story from Wednesday from Bridge, Michigan. DOJ sent election monitors to Michigan. No drama ensued. Okay, that's great, Senator. But why would the Department of Justice do that? Do you see that as, say, a dry run for November? And then on top of that, how concerned are you that not only would the Trump administration send election monitors around the country in November, but that they also would send ICE agents to polling places around the country in November?
I'm deeply concerned that the message of sending those monitors to Lansing and Detroit and other cities in Michigan was essentially, we're watching. The message is we have monitors on the ground, even if they're unobtrusive and silent in this primary, they could be there actively intervening in some future primary. And you're absolutely right. They have to be seen as part of a pattern of efforts to assault free and fair elections and, in fact, suppress the vote. The President of the United States issued an executive order in March saying that the United States Postal Service could not transmit or deliver mail-in ballots if the names were not on the Postal Service's own list of eligible voters. That is an unconstitutional, illegal interference with mail-in voting, and that's why 23 state attorneys general blocked it through a federal court order. Last Monday, it was argued in the United States Supreme Court. Again, part of a pattern of potentially interfering, and yes, sending ICE agents or maybe even the National Guard to polling places on Election Day to intimidate and create fear and discourage people from voting.
Senator, I want to pivot to the Russia sanctions bill that passed the Senate this week, which was obviously a win for supporters of Ukraine. I'm wondering what you feel has been the impetus for Republicans to hop back on the pro-Ukraine wagon after a stretch of a lack of support for our Ukrainian allies.
Great question, Jackie. I championed this bill for 3 years with Senator Lindsey Graham, who died very recently, and the passage of this bill by an overwhelming bipartisan majority, 86-11, was a tribute to bipartisan work that we did and to the courage and strength of the Ukrainian people, who have defied all the military predictions, our own included, that they would succumb to Putin's murderous slaughter. And he's doing it now, of course, every evening with missiles and drones. And I think that slaughter was, in fact, a factor in moving the bill forward, perhaps persuaded President Trump to finally support this bill. We were waiting for the green light from him to the majority leader to move forward. And Ukraine now is actually turning the tide, arguably winning. Another factor that I think persuaded Republicans to go forward with the bill. They are reaching deep into Russia's territory to destroy manufacturing facilities where Russians make those drones and missiles that bombard Ukraine and kill civilians every night. And they are destroying a lot of the Russian war machine. So the viability, in fact, potential win by Ukrainians, I think, also was persuasive. But ultimately, President Zelensky visiting just within the past couple of weeks, and the magnetic force of his pleading with us, please give us the sanctions tariffs bill, I hope also will be persuasive to the House of Representatives. I championed this bill with Senator Graham for more than 2 years on our 10 trips to Ukraine together, seeing the boldness and resilience and strength of the Ukrainian people, and I hope it will persuade the House to move forward now as well.
Senator Richard Blumenthal, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.